Freshwater plays a crucial role in agriculture, and with that comes the issue of water quality. Both plant and animal production are driven by the constant use of freshwater because they both need it to survive and grow. Because freshwater doesn't have an endless supply, methods are put into place by farmers around New Zealand to irrigate water onto their farms. With this comes many issues regarding water quality because fertilizers and animal waste can find their way into waterways, affecting the aquatic life of many rivers and lakes throughout New Zealand. Irrigation generates 3 times the amount of economic production that dry land farming does, which means that most farms in New Zealand resort to irrigating water out of natural lakes and rivers to be used in their farms. In New Zealand, there is around 720,000 hectares of irrigated land, and that number has doubled every 12 years since 1970. The movement of water through irrigation threatens natural bodies of water because the more water moving through farms and farmland means the higher potential for pollutants to enter waterways. Pollutants move into the natural catchment in 3 ways: overland runoff, direct access to waters by livestock, and leaching of pollutants into groundwater. Water quality, from a scientific perspective, looks at the chemical, physical, and biological characteristics that allow life to be supported within bodies of water. Standards for water quality are set based on the threshold where biological life starts to die off due to pollution. Water pollution comes from fertilizers used to increase nutrients in soil that contain phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium, as well as animal waste that leaks into waterways. These pollutants cause eutrophication, or the enrichment of natural water with phosphorus and nitrogen to unnatural levels. This enrichment causes unnatural growth of aquatic plants such as algae. These plants begin to take up room and use nutrients. As the nutrients are used up, the plants die off. As they decay, they take up oxygen from the water, leaving less oxygen for other organisms and causing them to die off. Plant growth also results in high pH levels during late afternoon and thereby increases the toxicity of ammonia to fish and aquatic insects. This growth also limits the amount of sunlight reaching natural plants, which causes them to die off. Ultimately, this is detrimental to natural organisms living in lakes and rivers and kills off many naturally occurring organisms.
One important key mechanism for enforcing change is cap and trade. The government sets the cap across the agricultural industry that decides the limit amount of runoff and pollution allowed for each business. When these limitations are violated, the government is responsible for giving out punishments, usually in the form of monetary fines. The cap incentivizes high-polluting industries to cut their pollution levels. Over time, the cap is slowly lowered. The trade aspect of cap and trade allows companies that cut their pollution faster to gain and trade bonuses to companies that pollute more or save them for future use. Another potential solution is to use composting of organic materials rather than harsh fertilizers like nitrate and phosphate. Also, ultrasonic radiation is an effective method to control algae blooming and eutrophication. This works by stopping the photosynthetic system of the algae. Some agricultural businesses are actually resorting to treating their own water. This method is accomplished by running their used water through several ponds, where bacteria filters out the excess nutrients. By doing this, farms never have to obtain new water, and sustainability is ensured. The final technique for preventing runoff is riparian planting, which filters out sediment and nutrients and acts as a natural barrier. These are used to prevent harmful toxins from livestock from running off into waterways.
Agriculture and water quality is an important environmental issue that has a significant social values and many implications, causing cultural contestation to arise in New Zealand. From a political perspective, the current Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, views that urgent action is required for change in the agricultural industry that must be generated to sustain a positive future for quality of waterways throughout New Zealand. Many farm practices of irrigation is polluting the surface groundwater by intensified agricultural farming. The Prime Minister states that there is major indirect consequences for new forms of land use through irrigation schemes. Arden believes that the increased capital cost of irrigation is insufficient for future practices with high operational costs, meaning the farmers are inevitably drawn to higher yielding land uses. Fresh water provides us with a considerable natural advantage. It is abundant, supporting our economy, our environment, our recreation, and our national identity. The economy is reliant on agriculture, so removing the natural leading export industry wouldn't make sense, so we must make a conscious approach to regulate the overall effects. The Green Party negatively views agricultural practices. It is stated that increased fertilized concentrations target crop development growth, therefore leading to increased pollution as nitrates enter waterways. Increased nutrient loading from animal waste can lead to eutrophication of water bodies and elevated concentrations from improper agricultural methods. The dairy industry contributes $7.8 billion worth of GDP annually. From a social standpoint, views of agriculture and water quality are considered important because of the creation of financial advantage nationally. The success appearing in the agricultural sector creates great food security for all, increased national income, and enhanced standard of living, which are all equally important for improved lifestyle. Dairy New Zealand is an organization that assists farmers to improve sustainable practices and supply them with adequate resources. The chief executive, Tim Mackle, states that waterways exposed to agricultural intensification is the most important goal for future monitoring, as 15% of New Zealand waterways run through agricultural land. Likewise, Fish and Game New Zealand surveyed the country as part of the Colmer-Brunton Act, which is the leading social marketing agency, displaying that 82% of the population shared extreme concern about national water quality. Most of the media content involves the controversy about irrigation schemes operating through the agricultural sector between different people, groups, and organizations. A total 7% as of June 2019 in New Zealand farmland is irrigated, which requires the reduction of abundant nearby waterways. This is contributing towards the unsustainable environmental practices, therefore deteriorating water quality. Problems between urban residents of farming communities occur, resulting in expansive urban decline. The Dunedin City Council has stated that understanding the state of fresh water and analysis is further complicated by gaps and inconsistencies in the monitoring regimes. Water quality and quantity is being adversely affected primarily by changes in the land and the diffuse contamination arising from pastoral farmland urbanization. The most important cultural contestation of the environmental issue is the Maori values incorporated in the leading tribal group Ngai Tahu. The land inherited by their ancestors covers over 100,000 hectares of land. The tribe shares that if appropriate environmental approach is considered an agricultural practice, that waterways should have thriving ecosystems and eutrophication shouldn't be of concern. They incorporate social values such as guardianship and protection through local processes which can generate adequate production to assist the financial powerhouse of the dairy industry. The tribe aims to produce sustainable products from the environment in a way which outlines their values. This includes contributing to achieving tribal aspirations such as upholding the role as custodian of the environment. The main encouragement throughout the industry is to change in sustainable schemes for water quality benefits by positively altering agricultural practices throughout New Zealand.